Hello, my fellow Gambians. Once more, I am going to address you on a subject that is very close to my heart and to the hearts of the majority of Gambians. We have witnessed in these days that Jammeh, the president of the Gambia, talks about an agricultural vision of 2016, whereby he is trying to once more fool the Gambians to believe that what he cannot achieve in 20 years to fulfill the aspiration of the Gambian people, he is ready to achieve this within 2 years. For me, this is the joke of the century, and really it is an insult to the intelligence of the Gambian people. If the APRC government, after 20 years, cannot make the Gambia to be self-sufficient in rice, and recently, during the president's message, during the corridor feast, the president himself on television and radio publicly agreed and accepted that Jawara's agricultural programs and policies were more successful than that of his government. How then can such a person turn around and want to promise the Gambian people that he can perform a miracle by making the Gambia to be self-sufficient in rice within 2 years? Please, Gambians, let us not allow Jammeh to once more fool us and to divert the attention of the Gambian people from the core issues of poverty, underdevelopment, starvation, etc., etc., that is taking place in the Gambia for the last 20 years. When the PPP government took over government in 1965, Gambia was producing less than 50,000 tons of groundnuts every year. And that was the main produce and the main export. But the PPP government was able to encourage and invest in the agricultural sector, whereby in 1993, we bought over 150,000 tons of groundnuts, we were exported, and because of our diversification program in agriculture, we became one of the leading exporters of cotton in the western region of Africa. We were also exporting fish, which became the second agricultural export for the Gambia. Not to talk about the 90 tons of horticultural produce that was exported to Europe every Thursday for over 5-6 years before the coup. Presently, for the last 4 years, Gambia's tonnage in agriculture, particularly in groundnuts, has gone down so significantly that the national produce of groundnuts in the last 4 years cannot be above 40,000 tons, which is a shame. Why is the agricultural development? The cotton industry is at a standstill. Fisheries, the industrial fisheries sector is dead. Where is NPE? Where is LIFES? Where are all the other major players, Gambian players in the fisheries sector? None. The cooperative movement, which was established and encouraged and developed by the PPP government, used to produce and provide producer assistance to all farmers during the farming season in the form of production credit for equipment, implements, and other needs of the farmers, especially seeds, fertilizer, and subsistence credit in cash for the use of the farming community. And these loans were then repaid after they sell their produce during the trade season. Even big farmers at that time during the PPP were so successful, both in groundnuts, in fishing, and in cotton, and in rice, that they pay for themselves to go to Mecca, their wives, their families, and some of them started to live productive lives and affluent lives. This has all stopped because all the major projects, particularly in the area of rice, which Jammeh now is promising that he can reverse the trend, that he cannot reverse in 20 years, but he can do it in 2 years. Let us not allow anybody to fool us. We are in the 21st century. Those days are gone. The Jahali Pachar has failed. And shamefully, now they say Pachar. The Pachar farms are part of the Kanilai farms, and they had a military officer posted there to be the farm manager. What a shame. The rice development project is gone. The small scale development project is gone. The lowland development project is the only surviving project presently, and I would say this was the last project I signed with IFAD as Minister of Agriculture in the First Republic. Food aid is being distributed presently in the Gambia. This has been far gone during the PPP regime because the government, because of their failed policies and their inability to assess the rainfall pattern, because lack of good policies, equipment, and professionals, they were not able to declare this year as a drought year. And agricultural production, because of the bad rains and late rains, has been drastically affected and negatively so, that the farming community are now suffering from lack of food and starvation. And the United Nations, through the FAO, has declared that 80,000 Gambians need food aid. And out of this, 50,000 are already under malnutrition. And out of these 50,000, 8,000 of them are all young children under the age of 10. Fellow Gambians, this is a very serious matter. Therefore, let us not at any one time allow ourselves to be fooled by the Jammeh regime that they can perform a miracle which was impossible for them to perform for 20 years. But to do so within 2 years, enough is enough. All the projects that the government of the PPP implemented and instituted in the Gambia, particularly, I've mentioned those of rice. Also in fishing, I was privileged to be the Minister of Fisheries when we introduced industrial fishing and established the Gunjur complex, the Tanje complex, the Batakunku complex, the ice plant at Birkama, the Bara complex, Tankular, Kemoto, Salikenye, Tendaba, Bakau, and Jurunku. And these were all complexes established to assist the fishing communities of these areas to improve, or not only on their income, but the techniques of fishing. And the Japanese government was providing canoes, outboard engines and nets, and training Gambians, young Gambians, to be professional fishermen. Such projects have disappeared. The diversification of agriculture allowed us in agriculture, me as a minister, to send farmer families to Indonesia for on-the-job training with farmers in Indonesia, in rice, in horticulture, and in orchardry. And some of our male farmers in the Gambia are still benefiting from the experiences that they gained in Indonesia. But this government has stopped the program. Sadauda Keraba Jawara was a farmer, but he was a farmer as a Gambian. He has never used his presidency to promote his farming activities. I was agricultural minister for 5 years, but I have never set foot either in his farm in Banyulunding or in Barajali, because though we are private farms, and Sadauda wants to make sure he will never mix personal interest with national interest. I was Minister of Agriculture for the Gambian people and not a Minister of Agriculture to promote Sadauda's agricultural activities. That was unacceptable under the PPP regime, because Sadauda has conscience, and his conscience will not allow him to use Gambian people to promote his personal interest and objectives in agriculture. He believes that he was president of the Gambian people, to work for the Gambian people, for every citizen, to improve your own life and production, and to live a respectable and free life as a Gambian. He believes that he was a president and a servant of the Gambian people, and his role and objectives and responsibility was to provide for the Gambian people, to make every Gambian, particularly the farmers, to be self-sufficient and independent, so that they can live like any decent human being. That is why, after the coup d'etat, as his Barajali rice field fell under the auspices of the Rice Development Project, which C.D. Jaju was the manager, he was called to the Commission of Inquiry, and C.D. Jaju made it so clear that even for the services that were provided for Sadauda's Barajali farm, Sadauda paid personal checks to make sure those services are never free for him. And I'm sure that is why, immediately after C.D. Jaju's statement and presentation at these commissions, his services were terminated. But thank God, he is now enjoying himself with an international appointment, where his services are now being used to promote agricultural development throughout the world, instead of in Gambia alone. Therefore, fellow Gambians, we as Gambians should now see ourselves as matured, enlightened Gambians. Because for us to agree that Yahya Jammeh and his government can make Gambia to be self-sufficient in rice production in 2016, my friend, we should not allow ourselves to be fooled again. So many promises are made that we will be a super country within 4 years. And this is 10 years ago when they said we discovered oil. We were told that we were going to build a train track to Mali. All these things are just promises to divert the attention of the Gambian people from the serious issues that are taking place in the Gambia. Fellow Gambians, the difference between Sir Dawda and jammeh was that Sir Dawda had conscience. Sir Dawda would have stood on the television or on the radio and call on fellow workers and fellow farmers from the URD, from the CRR, from the LRR, from the North Bank region, and from Western region to leave their farms and go and work for him on his farm, as we are seeing now the president doing, coming to the television and requesting for farmers to leave their farms and go and help him on his candlelight farms. This is a serious indictment on the president, particularly because he is very insensitive to the lives and sufferings of the Gambian people. This has to stop. And it is we, the Gambians, who should stand up and speak out against all this impunity and all these violations that are taking place in Gambia. Gambia belongs to the Gambians, and any president who is elected in Gambia is supposed to be there, and he should be accountable to the Gambian people. And all his actions and deeds should be transparent. Being a president is enough job for any Gambian. But we cannot have a president who wants to be the biggest businessman, the biggest farmer, the biggest engineer, the biggest doctor, etc., etc. That's not possible. They elect him to be president for him to serve the Gambian people. Being a president should be work enough, should be responsibility enough for any person to be contented with and serve the Gambian people. This is a wish of the Gambian people. And this is what we as the opposition, this is what the PPP, in collaboration with the other political opposition parties, are fighting for, and we are going to make sure that come 2016, the Gambian people will be free from being taken for a ride and being helpers in candlelight farms and other farms. And this does not only include farmers, but civil servants, people from parastatals, people from the armed forces, people from the police, being seen working in the candlelight farms. They all have parents and relatives who have farms in the rural areas. Let them go and work for their families and not for the president. That is not why they were employed, to serve us in the services or in the civil service or in the parastatals. Gambians should be free. Gambians are tired of being used. 2016 should be the deadline. And Gambia will make sure the APRC is out. And then we will institute a government that believes in democracy, rule of law, human rights, and of course, the independence of the individual. And we will show the people that the power of any government resides in the people. And as an elected officer, whether you are a president, a minister, or an MP, you are accountable to the people. And the people will have the right to decide when or how you are elected, and if you don't satisfy the needs of those people, come next election, you are out. That is why, come 2016, the APRC will be history. God saves the Gambia, And God bless the Gambian people. Thank you very much.